The year is 2025. A new era of trade wars grips the global economy, reshaping alliances and economic strategies across continents. The United States, under the renewed leadership of President Trump, has erected steep tariffs, targeting friends and foes alike. These tariffs are part of a broader strategy to protect American jobs and industries. This protectionist policy, while intended to bolster American industries, has inadvertently pushed Southeast Asian nations closer to the embrace of an eager China. The region is now more intertwined with China's economic ambitions than ever before. As Washington erects barriers, Beijing is building bridges. A new Silk Road paved not just with concrete and steel, but with economic influence and strategic ambition. China's Belt and Road Initiative is gaining momentum, offering Southeast Asian countries an alternative path to prosperity. This essay will examine how US tariffs are reshaping the economic and geopolitical landscape of Southeast Asia, driving a wedge between traditional allies and accelerating China's rise as a regional hegemon. The shifting dynamics are creating new opportunities and challenges for the region. We will explore the economic fallout from these tariffs, China's strategic response, and the long-term implications for Southeast Asian unity and the balance of power in the region. The economic landscape is being redrawn with significant consequences for global trade. The story unfolding in Southeast Asia is a cautionary tale about the unintended consequences of protectionism and the allure of an alternative economic order. It highlights the complex interplay between national policies and global economic trends. In April 2025, President Trump signed an executive order imposing a new 10% tariff on a wide range of imports, including goods from several Southeast Asian nations. These tariffs, the highest in over a century, were designed to protect American manufacturing and reduce the trade deficit. However, they sent shockwaves through the global economy, particularly impacting export-dependent countries in Southeast Asia. For Southeast Asian nations, many of which have built their economies on exporting goods to the West, these tariffs were a blow. Vietnam, a rising star in the global manufacturing sector, saw its exports of textiles, footwear, and electronics to the US plummet. Cambodia, heavily reliant on garment exports, faced factory closures and job losses. Across the region, businesses grappled with uncertainty, fearing that the tariffs were just the opening salvo in a protracted trade war. The economic fallout from the US tariffs was swift and severe. Southeast Asian economies, already grappling with the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, faced a new set of challenges. Exports declined, investment dried up, and currencies weakened. The spectre of capital flight loomed large as businesses sought safer havens for their investments. Governments across the region scrambled to mitigate the damage. They sought alternative markets for their goods, negotiated trade deals with other countries, and implemented stimulus packages to boost domestic demand. However, the economic pain was undeniable, and the political ramifications were soon to follow. The tariffs had created an opening, a vacuum of influence that China was all too eager to fill. As the US retreated behind a wall of tariffs, China sensed an opportunity. With its vast financial resources and a strategic vision for regional dominance, Beijing moved swiftly to position itself as the economic savior of Southeast Asia. Loans were extended, infrastructure projects were greenlit, and trade deals were inked. China's message was clear: we are open for business. We are a reliable partner. We offer an alternative to the uncertainties of the West. This message resonated with Southeast Asian leaders, many of whom were already wary of America's commitment to that region. The tariffs, they argued, were proof that Washington was more interested in protecting its own interests than in supporting its allies. Section 5. An Empire of Influence, BRICS, Bytes, and Yuan. China's strategy in Southeast Asia goes beyond simple economic expediency. It is a multifaceted approach that intertwines economic, technological, and political elements. It is part of a grander vision to establish itself as the dominant power in the region, not through military might, but through economic dependence and technological integration. This strategy is meticulously planned and executed. This is the essence of China's empire of influence, a web of infrastructure, digital networks, and financial ties that bind Southeast Asian nations ever closer to Beijing. The reach of this influence is vast and growing. The Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, China's flagship infrastructure development program, is a key instrument of this strategy. It is designed to create a network of trade routes and economic corridors. Through the BRI, China is investing billions of dollars in building ports, railways, highways, and other critical infrastructure across Southeast Asia. These investments are transforming the region's landscape and other critical infrastructure across Southeast Asia. These projects are not just about construction, they are about creating lasting economic ties. These projects, while touted as win-win partnerships, serve a dual purpose. They facilitate Chinese trade and investment, and they also extend China's influence. And they create economic dependencies that give Beijing leverage over its Southeast Asian partners. This leverage can be used to sway political decisions and align regional policies with China's interests. Section 6 Case Studies, from Vientiane to Kuala Lumpur. The impact of China's economic statecraft is visible across Southeast Asia, transforming the region's infrastructure and economies. In Laos, a landlocked country eager for development, China has financed and built a high-speed railway connecting Vientiane, the capital, to the Chinese border. This ambitious project is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, aiming to enhance regional connectivity. This project, while boosting connectivity, has also saddled Laos with a mountain of debt, making it increasingly reliant on Chinese loans and investment. The financial burden raises questions about the long-term sustainability of such projects. In Cambodia, China has poured money into infrastructure projects, including the construction of a new port facility in Sihanoukville. This port is expected to become a major hub for trade and commerce in the region. This port, strategically located on the Gulf of Thailand, has raised concerns about China's growing military presence in the region. The dual-use nature of such infrastructure projects often blurs the line between civilian and military applications. Cambodia has also embraced China's digital Yuan, becoming one of the first countries to pilot the use of China's central bank digital currency. This move signifies a deeper integration of Cambodia into China's economic sphere. Malaysia, a country once wary of Chinese influence, has also succumbed to the allure of Chinese investment. The influx of Chinese capital has led to significant developments in various sectors, including real estate and infrastructure. The East Coast Rail Link, a multi-billion-dollar railway project initially suspended due to cost concerns, was revived after China offered to finance and build it. This project is seen as a cornerstone of Malaysia's future transportation network. This project, once completed, will enhance Malaysia's connectivity but also deepen its economic ties with China. The long-term implications of such deepening ties remain to be seen as countries balance development needs with sovereignty concerns. Section 7. ASEAN's Dilemma: Unity or Economic Survival. The growing economic clout of China in Southeast Asia presents a challenge to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, the region's premier intergovernmental organization. ASEAN, founded on principles of regional unity and consensus-based decision-making, is struggling to maintain its cohesion in the face of China's assertive diplomacy and the economic pressures created by the US-China trade war. Some ASEAN members, particularly those heavily reliant on trade with China, are reluctant to criticize Beijing's actions in the South China Sea or its economic practices. They fear jeopardizing their economic relationship with China, which has become a vital lifeline for their economies. This has created divisions within ASEAN, undermining its ability to present a united front on issues of regional importance. Section 8. A shifting tide, the geopolitical reckoning. The economic realignment underway in Southeast Asia has profound geopolitical implications. As China's influence grows, the United States' long-standing role as the region's security guarantor and economic partner is being called into question. The tariffs imposed by the Trump administration, whether intended or not, have accelerated this shift, pushing Southeast Asian nations further into China's orbit. This shift in the balance of power has implications for regional security, trade, and diplomacy. China's growing economic dominance gives it greater leverage in negotiating territorial disputes in the South China Sea. It also allows China to shape the rules of trade and investment in the region, potentially at the expense of US interests. Section 9. The future of Southeast Asia, a balancing act. The future of Southeast Asia hangs in the balance. Caught between a retreating United States and an ascendant China, Southeast Asian nations face a difficult choice: align with one superpower at the expense of the other, or chart a delicate course of neutrality, seeking to balance their economic interests with their strategic autonomy. This balancing act will require deft diplomacy, economic pragmatism, and a clear-eyed assessment of national interests. Southeast Asian nations must leverage their economic importance to both China and the United States, extracting concessions and ensuring that they are not pawns in a great power rivalry. The stakes are high, and the choices made in the coming years will shape the destiny of Southeast Asia for decades to come.